Hello everyone, welcome back again. So unfortunately I've spent Easter off the tools. I haven't quite got the all clear from the doctors just yet, but I have been able to get back into the workshop, have a bit of a clean up and push a broom around, so things are starting to move slowly. The last update video I put together, which involved the Glenn Seton BA that we restored over 10 years ago, has generated over 50,000 views, and I've been inundated with questions and comments from everyone wanting to look more at the restoration of the car, given that the video, or the basis of the last video, was to explain that we did have that car at one stage, we restored it and sold it, and that's what generated the revenue for the Super Cheap Auto Falcon and FTR 3. So I've spent the last few days going through old photos and videos from over 10 years ago, and I've put together this update which has a good look at the restoration of the Glenn Seton BA. And it also explains more about the car that I crashed into, which many of you picked up was another Glenn Seton chassis, which is well known for all the wrong reasons. I hope you enjoy this update, and hopefully by the time the next update comes around, normal programming will resume. A lot of the questions we've been receiving throughout the week have been revolving around why we didn't just put the car on the track and race it, as opposed to going to all that effort to restore it first, then take it on track and crash it. The reality is we'd obviously never planned to crash it, but we had hoped to just tidy the car up a little bit and then take it to a track day or two. But once we started to even get to that point, it was pretty clear that we had a big job ahead of us. When we purchased the car, it came with a brand new set of panels. So these were trimmed to, I guess, suit the V8 Supercar, and none of them had been installed to the car before. They were brand new, still in the box. So we fitted up a rear corner panel, which was riveted on. It was nice and easy. We put two brand new doors on the passenger side and a brand new front quarter panel. Now the front quarter panel's composite, so it was nice and easy to fit. But no matter how much we moved everything around, we couldn't have any door gaps between the front door and the rear door on the passenger side. And once we measured up the front door that came off the car, it was apparent that it had actually been trimmed up to have enough door gap between the front and rear doors. We then took some measurements off a standard road Falcon and realised that the passenger side of the car had shortened up through its racing life, given the amount of hits it's had throughout its years in the main game and the Dunlop series.
We now have one destroyed race car, mate. Well done.
I think. Wow, yeah. He's gone in there hard.
And thankfully the tyre barrier is doing exactly what they're placed there to do. Look at how much air that car got.
Yeah, a lot of energy there. I'm just looking at my data sheet here. When you come off the top of the hill there, you're doing 180 kilometres an hour, breaking down to 80 k's at the final corner.
I don't care if there's 10 left down, he should not be doing that. But that was me letting him through.
In addition to this newfound complication, we knew that we had to take some parts off the car which were unique to this chassis. Now this car was last raced by Glenn Seton, who was gone on to be an Australian Paralympian, and the car was set up with a hand clutch, as you'll see in these photos. So a lot of the plumbing had to be removed from the car so we could box up these parts and send them back to Colin for his future racing endeavours. So part of the car was already stripped out. We now we're in a position where to get the car right, it would need to go on a bench and be pulled back into shape at a panel beaters. So it was at this point that we made the decision that we'd completely tear the car down, do it properly, get the sills repaired, and really eliminate the need to have packing shims and all that kind of equipment in between the hinge and the sills, which was there when we purchased the car. That way we'd be left with a nice square car. The door jambs and sills and door gaps would all be really nice, it'd present cleanly, and then we'd be left with a good car. Obviously, in hindsight, if we wouldn't have gone to all this effort if we had known that it would be crashed in a matter of laps, but unfortunately, that's the risk you take when the cars do go on track. So as you'll see in these photos, we completely stripped the car. The car was put on a bench, it was pulled back into shape, and it all came up really nicely. And we ended up getting the chassis painted inside and out, and we were left with a really nice, clean chassis that we could start to build up from scratch. One point of interest, which we didn't know at the time, but we've covered off in our earlier videos, the additional bar work that was built into FTR 3 somewhere in between 2001 and 2002. And this is all the crossbars that went up underneath the dashboard. If you have a look at BA2, which is the Glenn Seton BA, it has these bars built into it from the very beginning. So there must have been some development and some understanding that there was a benefit to have these bars under the dashboard, given that FTR3 was 2 chassis before BA2. So there must have been a full confidence that those extra bars under the dashboard were definitely a benefit when it comes to chassis stiffness. So as you'll see in these photos, once again, the car went back together. We did paint all the panels white apart from the boot, the roof and the bonnet, because we decided at that point that we were going to run with the 2004 livery once the car was painted. It wasn't an overly tough decision. The 2003 livery did look good, but 2004 was far more iconic. So we went out and purchased a model of the 2004 car, and we started with cutting files and bits and pieces and got the livery pieced together over time. We didn't have an original template for the Falcon head that's on the back of the car. So what we did is we blew up the car model and we made a little clear sticker that we could paint over, and it was effectively a stencil that was stuck on the car. So when we painted the car, we painted it in several layers. It was extremely labour intensive without the original stencil, but we just didn't have it to play with at the time. So once all the paintwork was completed, we then started copying some stickers and putting the livery on the car. Once again, it was a lot of trial and error, like with what we found with the Super Cheap Auto Falcon, which we've covered in previous videos. You can make the stickers to the size you think they are, but it's not until you put them on the car and have a look at it for a few days that you realise that things were a little bit different or things needed to be adjusted. Like any livery, you look at photos from different rounds. There were subtle changes, like the Dunlop sticker on the front quarter panel. It was there some rounds, not the others. So we just went for a livery that was a mid-range and covered off a majority of the car's racing life throughout 2004. So the restoration wasn't just limited to paint and panel. Obviously we went over the mechanicals in the car as well, given it was completely torn apart. Now, we covered off in the earlier video that it had a KRE engine in it. So the original FPR engine was gone. That was a change that was made at Brytech. So it had a KRE engine, and there was a question mark about that it may have a lifter problem from the last time it was raced. So the engine came out of the car, we got it torn down and checked, and there was a slight freshen up done to it. We obviously didn't have the budget to do a full rebuild on the engine, but it was certainly good enough to hit the track and make sure that it wasn't going to detonate. There's also a few comments on the last video, the fact that the car had a sequential gearbox in it. That was something I did deliberately. The car, obviously to be period correct, did run a H pattern, but I left this sequential gearbox in it full well knowing that there was every chance that I was going to buzz the engine. The car was set up with a shift cut, so trying to shift second to third or fourth to fifth across the gate, even the most seasoned drivers can occasionally miss-shift and buzz the engine, and if you buzz the engine, it's a lot of money. So the sequential gearbox was deliberately left in the car, and it was something that I had planned to change at a later date once I got my head around it, but unfortunately that day never came given the way things planned out. All the driveline was serviced, the shocks were done, everything was done before the car got put back together. So mechanically it was pristine, and it could have been driven for a lot of kilometres trouble-free, but unfortunately we didn't even get 100 kilometres on the clock before the accident took place. Now, many of you from last week's video picked up on the fact that a car that I hit did look a lot like another Glenn Seton chassis, and it actually was. It's an EF/EL Falcon, and many of you will know the car. It's actually the 1995 Bathurst car that gave Glenn his best chance to win Bathurst and fell agonisingly short when a valve spring broke just a handful of laps from home. Now, this car really didn't race again after this incident, and it's currently undergoing restoration as well, and it'll be really good to see this car back on track one day as the person that's restoring it knows Glenn's cars back to front.
It's only a matter of time as Seton steers out of the turn.
So it's now 2025, and there are a few little reminders of FPR BA2 still hanging around the place. giving me a gentle reminder on how we've ended up where we are today. The car itself is in England, several thousand of kilometres away, but it has played a special part in restoring the super cheap Auto Falcon and FTR3 and bringing back both these iconic cars. I'm hoping within the next week I'll be back on the tools again. I have graduated to the broom, so things aren't all bad, and I'm really looking forward to bringing you more content on both the car's restoration as soon as I'm able. Thanks again for your kind words and support throughout this time, and I look forward to bringing you more as soon as I'm able. Thanks again for your support. I'll speak to you soon.